Hello everyone and welcome to a very new episode of Women's World. And as we are still on the second day of the year, I would like to wish you all a very happy new year, a very happy and successful 2017. And of course, our main topic today will be tourism in Egypt during 2017. We will be focusing specifically on museums in Egypt and the significance of those museums and the maintenance of those museums. And we will be starting now with the news right after this short break. And now we will start with some of the news that concerns women. A delegation from the National Council for Women visited the Asmarad district in Muqattam on December 29, 2016. The delegation included Dr. Ahlam Hanafi, member of the council and responsible for the Health Commission, Marwa Abdelaziz, consultant, and Dr. Amira Mustafa. They distributed 650 blankets provided by Dr. Randa Rizq. And during the meeting with engineer Hassan El Ghandour, head of Al Asmarad district, they reviewed the problems that the Asmarad district residents suffer from and their needs. Dr. Ahlam Hifni assured the council is trying to provide all women needs at Al Asmarad district, and Dr. Randa Rizq also expressed her appreciation for this initiative and the cooperation between the council and Cairo Governorate to support people of Al Asmarad district. And now moving on to Egyptian women took 4th place on the beauty chart for most beautiful women around the world. Morocco took 2nd place on the Arabian chart and the 32nd place internationally on the most beautiful women chart in the world, which included the 43 countries. Meanwhile, Tunisia took 1st place on the Arabian chart and the 28th internationally, and this is according to a special site. In addition, European countries took over the 1st places on the beauty chart, since the first 5 places were taken by Finland, Norway, Sweden, Russia, and Estonia. Regarding Arab countries, Bahrain took the 3rd place, Egypt 4th place, and Somalia 5th place on the Arabian chart. And still with some of the news that concerns women, Maya Medhat wins the prize of Entrepreneur for the Year. In appreciation for her efforts as a young businesswoman, Maya Medhat, executive director of one of the companies, won the award presented by Arabian Business Startup for 2016 that took place in Dubai. The list of nominees for the award this year included 400 nominees, out of which 6 have succeeded to reach the final stage of the competition. Maya Medhat commented on the award winning, saying, "I'm honored to receive such a unique award from an Arab business startup." And we have with us, joined over the phone, Dr. Nadia Zakhari, former Minister of Scientific Research. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Zakhari.
Thanks. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you also. We've learned that a delegation from the National Women Council for Women have visited Al Asmarat district, and they provided them with a large number of blankets. And we would like to know what is the comments of the delegation, and how did they see the needs of the people and the residents of this newly developed area?
You know, we are concentrating on the slum areas, and as a committee of scientific research in the National Council of Women, I'm concentrating on some scientific activities. So we are trying to visit slum areas and to benefit from what scientific research has been the latest findings related to health, like the protection and early detection for cancer, and we went there and we made a caravan and we made them the mammogram. We are also trying to give them some hints for the health hygiene. We are going to make a library in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture. And we distributed some books for the school children there. And we found that some students are talented, whether in music, in drawing, in scientific research. So we want to make a benefit from these children and to grow them and to improve their talents. Other committees, not only scientific research, other committees like that of the health, we are also visiting Al-Asmarat and other slum areas. They give blankets, they give food, they give them soap to clean them, to know how to clean themselves. These are the most important things there. We are trying also to make some activities to how to communicate with others, some games and so on.
Right, Dr. Nadia Zakhari, former Minister of Scientific Research, many thanks for joining us. Thank you. And dear viewers, now we go to this report by Basma Taha, which is an interview with Ms. Hibak Osman, President of an international organization for women's rights, on the role of women in the society. Let's go and watch.
Have been always playing great and significant role in the society. Their achievements and contributions in different fields cannot be neglected. The main aim of the event is to shed light on the vital role of women in developing nations in different Arab countries. Joining me now is Mrs. Hibak Osman. First of all, thank you so much for joining us on Nile TV International.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
I would like to know more from you about the significance of the conference.
It's extremely important. First of all, Marfa Talawi is always a pioneer when it comes to women's rights. Having representatives of the government and putting a focus on women's issues is more important than anything these days. So it's very important, considering that the majority of refugees are women, considering that many laws and many constitutions have not been implemented. So hearing and pointing out the problems that women are facing in this region, social, religious, economic, is extremely important. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy that governments have sent strong representatives, to this conference. And of course, the Arab Women's Organization is a pioneer to, making sure that women's issues is a priority and putting that on their agenda, and considering the situation in the region in terms of conflict, bringing, up issues of women's full participation, in peace dialogue, in economics. It's very important. So yeah, it is significant. And at the same time, of course, the Arab Women's Organization did significant, research and publications, and sharing that also with everyone is very important, because a lot of times governments don't necessarily have the time, to do all this research, and training. So to have a specific organization that's the arm of governments working on these issues is very important, because they can do incredible advocacy for women, lobbying for women, and working with civil society and bringing and making it easier for civil society and governments to work together. I think this is the role that the Arab Women's Organization has taken, and you know, I congratulate them, and in that way it's successful. As one, too, the fact that you have African also, for example, the head of the African Parliament is here. So also building the relationship between Africa and the Middle East is extremely important. So again, you know, the Arab Women's Organization taking that initiative is also significant.
Okay, and in your viewpoints, what do the Egyptian women or the Arab women need to do more achieve?
I think it's the most important thing for Egyptians, Arabs, or Africans is to to participate fully, economically, politically, socially, in any society. You can't judge a society by the way it's treating its women, and I think in that aspect, you know, we really do have problems that we need to work out, but it doesn't mean we are the only ones. I think there is, you know, a major problem in women's full participation. For example, if you look at these governments that are at the middle of war, women should, there is 1325, a resolution from the Security Council that says women should fully participate in all the peace processes. And if you look at all these negotiations, there are no women at all. There is, with the exception of advisory committee for the Mastura, for Syria, you know, advising the Mastura, not advising the Syrian government, not, you know, they are not inside, you know, sitting at the table, they're outside in the corridor. So we do have major issues and challenges that we need to work out. But the political will, you know, is, I think it's better than it used to be 10 years ago. The resources usually to set aside for women to participate, I don't think governments have that, and there hasn't been an investment. So there are issues, but I do believe more than any time that people are working it out. Civil society, you know, governments, groups like the Arab Women's Organization are really working it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, and we're glad to be joined here today by Ms. Thimani Aukasha, tour guide, and of course you have a very special studies on museums, specifically on museums. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I would like you first to tell us about your achievements on the professional level in the year 2016.
Well, the most important thing that I finished my museum studies, Masters of Museum Studies, Museology, as known worldwide.
Right.
It's first of its kind here in Egypt. I did it in the Faculty of Tourism and Hotel Management,
Right.
Halwan University.
Okay.
I just finished it end of October. I also, the most significant two things I did was a trip to the south of Egypt, Shalatin, from Marsa Alam south up to Shalatin and the villages around. We did a trip with people who volunteered to give charity things and blankets and clothes, money to the villages there, because they are unforgotten or forgotten people, and they are living in very poor circumstances. So we went with our own cars and we delivered them in last Ramadan in June. We gave them the boxes for Ramadan. We delivered also mattresses, lots of also medication for them. Also a whole bus of doctors, they volunteered their time and they went to check on the people there. It was a great trip. We did the same trip again in just the early winter, and we delivered them lots of blankets and things they needed for to survive in after the floods that happened in last June.
Right. I would also like you to tell us more about your study and about your museums, and specifically the Grand Egyptian Museum, of course, as it's still under construction, and I think it will be having a very strong impact on tourism in Egypt. How do you see the significance of the Grand Egyptian Museum in specific?
Well, it's definitely one of the biggest projects we have at the moment. It's a beautiful, it has a beautiful location. Actually, from the first floor, you would be able to see the pyramids of Giza. So it's a fantastic location near the pyramids, the most important monument in Egypt. It will also have the collection of Tutankhamun. It's one of the most fantastic projects. The most important thing actually that happened, that the Grand Egyptian Museum and the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization are now independent entities, like the National Museum, National Council of Women. So which mean that they will have greater opportunities to actually develop and have an independent management.
Right. What other museums are interesting to tourists in Egypt? What are the most attractive museums in your opinion?
Well, there are around 130 museums all over Egypt. Unfortunately, a lot of them, they need a lot of restoration and they need a lot of care. But of course, there are lots of museums here in Cairo, like the Coptic Museum, the Museum of Islamic Art. There is also the Child Museum. There is lots of museums here in Egypt.
Right. Work is currently taking place at the Malawi Museum.
Yes,
would you like to tell us more about the current work taking place there and about the museum itself?
Well, I haven't seen it yet because they are still working on it. I think it's just about to open. So I haven't yet had the opportunity to see it after it's been renovated. But I saw it many years ago and it had a fantastic collection. So hopefully with new restoration, it will be up to date and it will encourage a lot of people to go there.
Right. Do you think that museums in Egypt take enough care with regards to maintenance, for example, and development and so on?
Definitely not. I think the museums need a lot of work regarding maintenance and to be up to date to the most modern technologies in exhibiting. They also need to be involved more with the surrounding community, and they need to attract a lot of the young people and the people in the city or in the to visit the museums, because that's the biggest actually and the most important role of a museum is to be involved with the society and to voice their problems and aspirations.
Right. I understand that your studies for master's degree is focused mainly on museums. Would you tell me more on your studies?
Well, it's focused on museum and museum management, the best methods to exhibit. My master's was focused on building a sustainable strategy for funding Egyptian museums, because the biggest also problem is that we find enough funding for all the museums we have. The last 5 years has been quite a struggle with the numbers of tourism and tourists coming to Egypt. So that's mainly also the reason why we don't have a lot of funds to renovate and all the museums we have. So
how do you think we can provide sustainable funding for museums?
Well, we need to have definitely, first of all, good management. And this management is the #1 thing in order to build a strategy. So if you have good management, able to make a strategy and find actually donors to donate to the museums.
Right. I would just like to go back to my question regarding your activities in Halayb and Shalatin. Would you tell me more details on this trip, as I think it was a very important step or achievement during this year?
Yes, it was a fantastic trip. The people there are really magnificent. They're very simple people. They live in really like huts made of tree logs. They live very poorly, and most of the villages there are either they live on fishing, and others who live in the mountains, they live on actually having sheep, and they sell the skin of the sheep and they sell the meat. So they live really in extremely simple circumstances and living conditions. And the biggest problem they have is that they don't have teachers who can come to the school. the schools there is just a room where all the children from different ages go to this school. Sometimes the Ministry of Education, they provide teachers, but because it's very simple way of living, they don't stay long. So maybe they stay a month maximum, and then they leave, and then the children are left without really proper education.
And how do you think we can provide those people with some sort of support? Who do you think can help? I mean, NGOs, social work.
There is a lot of NGOs and a lot of people, like the group I went to. The idea started initially with Mr. Dia Shawi, who lives in Marsa Alam, and he contacted Mr. Ihab al-Husseini, who is actually one of the people who travel a lot and go in the desert, and they actually combined, they made a great effort, and they collected, and everybody from the group of people who went, we managed to collect money and donations from people, and the idea was that we deliver these items ourselves, so that we make sure that the people who need the stuff, they get delivered.
Right. I would also like to go back to museums. What is the number of museums in Egypt?
There is around 130 museums in Egypt, yes, all over, scattered all over in the different provinces, from, I mean, from Cairo, Alexandria, you know, El Arish, south of Egypt, in Luxor, Aswan, El Menia, Sohag, in the oasis also, in the Western Desert. So there are lots of, and in El Fayoum, there are lots of museums in Egypt, and it's actually, I wish people here in Egypt realize that these museums, it's actually our national pride and heritage, and they should really go and visit it.
And are we marketing those museums with the exact marketing? Do you think, are they, I mean, marketed abroad, for example?
No, unfortunately, it's being very poor marketed abroad. I mean, the most important and the most famous is the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square, Coptic Museum, the Islamic Museum. These are the very well-known museums, but we have lots, like I told you, 130 museums. They all have a variety of actually interest to many people, and they should be all well promoted and properly marketed.
How do you think we should promote our museums? How do you think we should promote tourism abroad? Not only museums, I mean tourism in Egypt. We have a lot of hot spots in Egypt. We have all the beautiful beaches in Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada, and we have the monuments in Luxor and Aswan and in Cairo. How can we promote tourism in Egypt?
Well, definitely we need to, I mean, if I'm going to talk about museums, I think we need to make a lot of contact with entities abroad, and promote that Egypt is, like you said, it doesn't only have like beautiful sites and beautiful monuments and beaches, but it also has museums that cater for different interests and different ages also. But these museums need to have actually activities to attract people to visit the museums. So not only internationally, but I think we should focus also nationally on the Egyptians themselves, because the museums can play a very important role in developing the society we have.
Right, and in very brief, just I would like to know, what are your plans for 2017, as we're still on the second day of the year, of the new year 2017?
Hopefully I'm going to proceed with my studies and apply for doing a PhD in museology. That's, I think, the most important plan I have for 2017.
Right, Dr. Femini Okasha, tour guide, I would like to thank you very much for joining us. And I think now we're going to be going to your profile.